Hi guys, this will be the first video in a series. I'm building a Ritewing mini Drak. So I got the standard kit here. I also have the extended wings and the tail boom kit. So let's get started. You should start by installing this motor mount plate. Here I have already installed these sleeves, but never mind, this one goes in first. Don't use a knife, don't use a soldering iron or anything, just use a hacksaw blade to make the groove. This removes a tiny amount of material, so this one will slide in very nicely. So let's start cutting. So before installing this, we need to take off a little bit of material here and here so that you don't get in conflict with these two screws. I'll just fill up this groove with glue and install the plate. Before I install the carbon wing sleeves, I need to prepare them. I'll remove the wing joiners, not to accidentally cut them. I'll use this wing joiner to sand, just lightly scuff all the surfaces before gluing. So now I'll take all the measurements and start cutting. So I've scuffed all the gluing surfaces on both wings and fuselage. I also cut all these wing sleeves. So what I'll do next is, before I glue these in the wings, I need to check that the wings are perfectly straight. So I'll just slightly bend them into shape until both trailing edge and leading edge is straight. These are the extended wings. To glue in these sleeves I used Gorilla Glue. These sleeves needs to be properly seated, that's very important. Same with the sleeves on the wings. I've used thick CA and really pushed them down. Next is to cover these with E6000 glue. You can also use goop, but E6000 is a bit thinner, so it wicks down a little bit easier. When you glue in the sleeves, you can use sticky tape on the ends just to make sure that you don't get any glues inside the sleeves. I just used a little bit of extra CA instead. So the first layer of glue have set, so now I'll put in these caps. I'll just roughly cut them to length. This will be finely trimmed afterwards. So as you can see, there's a top and a bottom to these. You can see here you need to fill out with more of this foam. So you have a leftover like this, and this goes on top. So what's next I will do off camera. When the glue is set here, it will shrink a little bit, and I will fill up with this glue in all the voids. Also I will go over with this knife and finely trim this to be flush with the surface. Same with the wings, of course. Now I'm going to embed these fiberglass bars into the wing. To make the cut I'm using a hacksaw blade. So don't use a knife and don't use a soldering iron. This will give you full control, and it will also remove a tiny bit of material so that you don't deform the wing when you press the spars into the groove. The spars should be buried just beneath, but as close as possible to the surface. Let's do the other side. This is how you weigh down the wings so that they come out straight. So the weight should be on the trailing edge of the wing, and of course the table needs to be completely flat and clean. So now we'll do the same with the fuselage. Using my hacksaw I have finely adjusted these grooves so that the spars go just below the surface. Not below the surface, but actually flush with the surface. So I also scuffed the surface with sanding paper, so now I'll glue the two pieces together and install the spars. Don't need a lot of glue here because these pieces are quite tight fitting. I really like the E6000 glue with the tip. Makes it so much easier to get glue in there. So if you cut the grooves right, these rods should be just flush with the surface. So make sure leading and trailing edge are flush. So here are the booms, and these are the hard plastic inlays you're going to glue in here. I had to do a little bit of trimming here to make them fit perfect. And also, when you trim them, you have to make sure that it actually match up to the wing joiners. You put these inlays in, and if you've done the trimming correct, they shall hit these rods like this. So now we'll glue them in place. This is quite messy. I'm going to use goop. So now we will install fiberglass spars into the Coroplast. So I'm using the E6000 and I'm squirting quite a bit of glue inside here. I'll take the fiberglass rod and rotate it as I insert it. Just try to work the glue down. Let's do the extended wings. So this is the right wing. It's got channels here for the spars. This needs to be worked just a little bit with a hacksaw blade. You don't want it to go deep, you want the spar to go flush with the surface. So what I'm doing here is really I'm just widening just a little bit on this side and a little bit on this side. So all 4 spars are in and they are perfectly flush with the surface of the EPP. What I'll do next, of course, this is a flat table and it's clean, so I can use it as a surface to press the wing flat. I give the wing a little massage just to get all the tension out. I have a coarse and a fine block of sandpaper. It's very important not to create any flat spots. That would change the airfoil and we don't want that. This is my old mini Drak. You can see the singularity antenna embedded in the wing here. And here's my video transmitter. And I have just enough slack in the cable here so that I can easily disconnect the VTX if I need to change it. So this has worked so well that I will use the exact same thing on my new mini Drak. I am 8.5 centimeters from the vertical fin of 3.25 inches. Just try to cut about halfway through and I'll flip it over and do the other side. So I made a simple cutting tool by sharpening this aluminium tube. Now I got the antenna flush with the top surface of the wing. Next I will make pockets here to stow all the servo wire. So now we have a nice pocket to stow the cable. So now I need to make a hole here and here for this servo extension. This servo extension will be permanently glued in, like so. Let's do the ailerons. You can download this template from the Ritewing Nation. You simply cut these out with scissors and sticky tape the two pieces together. So now we can cut the ailerons using this template. Remember there's a top and a bottom on the ailerons, also a right and a left one. So I cut out both ailerons, so what's left now is to bevel the underside of the leading edge. Let's do the ailerons for the extended wings. We don't have any template, so I will just use the numbers. So I'll make a mark at 2.5 inches, and the next mark should be at 14.5 inches. And here it should be 1 inch. So now you should cut 3/8 of an inch, that's 1 centimeter. So to repeat all the measurements, from here to here is 2.5 inches, so that's the same as 6.5 centimeters. From here to here, 14.5 inches or 37 centimeters. Here to here, 2.5 centimeters, 1 inch. I will just bevel the underside and it's done. stab and the elevator have been laminated, so now I'll try to make set hinges with the Scotch 3M double-sided tape. Now I need to cut off the nose for the camera mount. So notice the angle, the camera will be pointed slightly downwards. So now I'll cover the whole fuselage with E6000. I will wait a couple of hours before doing the other side, so that it won't stick to the table. I've laminated the 4 wing halves and the 4 elevons using this secret sauce laminate from Ritewing. So this is incredibly strong laminate, but because of the shrinking power it needs to be pre-shrunk before you laminate, otherwise you risk warping the wings. I'm not going to show how you do this because it's my first time, so I'm not really an expert on it. So to do the set hinges, I'm using this Scotch 3M double-sided tape. So the first one went on top of the wing and under the elevon. The second one will go in the opposite direction. This one goes on top of the wing and below the elevon. This one goes on top of the elevon below the wing. Now I made 4 hinges. So what I'll do next is adjust these by pulling the tapes tight. Once I'm happy with the hinge line, I cover the whole hinge line with this packing tape. So that's the finished hinge. Now I can glue in the horizontal stabilizer. In doing this you need to be very precise. I also have to make sure that the vertical stabilizers are vertical. Now that I'm happy that everything is straight, I can put on some glue. This is the E6000 glue. The main assembly of the mini Drak is done, so in the next video I will hook up the servos and the control surfaces, also install all the electronics. Thanks for watching.